Welcome back to the continuing adventures of the monad. Where have we got to so far? We have discussed the need to focus one's intention at the start of the process of building out the Antahkarana. This intention is something tangible on the mental plane. It is a substance held in a ring-pass knot in a state of extreme tension. The second step involves the engaging of the emotional body and its creative potential to further energize the substance in the mental body. The disciple has to visualize what they are trying to achieve and how they are going to go about it. The analogy that was used was that of a cartoon that depicts the outline of a picture yet to be painted. We have now arrived at step 3, that of projection. This is a critical point because this is where aspirants often fall short and give up on the process they are striving to achieve. They may have developed the capacity to visualize what they are trying to do and have constructed a desire form which would have been used at a later stage in the building process. So what has gone wrong? The issue is one of will. The use of the will in the process of projection being stage 3. This stage involves the use of one's will and as well as further visualization. To this is now added a word of power. Not just any word or phrase of power like "you shall not pass," but a word of power that is specifically linked to the ray that the monad functions upon. Up until this point, it does not matter what ray you are functioning on to achieve the objectives of the first 2 steps. How do you find what your ray is? You get that from your master. Many clairvoyants claim to know what ray your various envelopes are functioning through. Smile at them politely and then leave the room. Only an initiate would know the answer to that question, and they would not tell you because they are initiates and don't announce themselves. So you would have to be under the direct instruction of a master before you are going to get the answer to those questions. What can be said about step 3, projection, is that it is quite a marked change from steps 1 and 2. The disciple has successfully organized the bridge substance in the ring-pass knot. They have brought into activity the will aspect and are aware of what they have to do next in terms of process and performance. What they now need to do is project this organized substance forward from the ring-pass knot as a line of light substance. How is this done? Through the use of that ray-specific word of power. This is the same process used by the Logos to create our solar system and even by the Absolute to create the universe. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then God said, "Let there be light." The same process, just scaled down a bit. From the point of view of the disciple, this projection of light substance is the reverse process that originally occurred when the monad, embedded on plane 43.1, sent forth the thread of life which finally anchored itself in the causal envelope we call our soul. It was in this manner that the soul came into being in the first place. It is from here that the soul, aka your solar diva, sent forth a dual thread that anchored itself in the head and the heart of the lower threefold persona. In the case of the building of the Antahkarana, the disciple is focused in their mental envelope within the ring-pass knot. Here, the disciple is drawing on all the resources of their threefold persona and their soul to project a beam of light substance towards the monad. This is the reversal of the process that the monad originated. This beam of light is the channel along which the final withdrawal of the monad takes place. When the monad sent down the life thread, it was an involutionary process. It focused on the soul and personality. The building of the Antahkarana is the final process by which the monad abstracts itself from the lower two triads. This process is sometimes called the Great Renunciation. What is being renounced? It is the life of the persona and the soul, which were tools for achieving a higher objective. This is what the fourth initiation, I-4, is all about. The Antahkarana does not just serve the process of uniting the first and second triads. It is about getting all the way back to the monad on top of the third triad. After taking the I-4, both the soul and the persona have no hold on the disciple anymore. This, as mentioned before, is when the veil of the temple is rent in twain from top to bottom. It is this veil that separates the outer court, the persona's life, from the holy place, the soul, and from there to the Holy of Holies, the monad. We see this in the construction of the Temple of Jerusalem. I think of it more through the lens of the Temple of Karnak. It always amazed me how you have a whopping big building at its entrance that then processed into a smaller courtyard. This then built up to a small room in which stood a statue that was only about 1 foot tall. All that masonry for a simple statue the size of a doll? But hey, we are talking about the monad here. The monad is the smallest particle of matter in the universe. It may be all-powerful, but it comes in a pint-sized bottle. The analogy of the building to what we are discussing here all seems to make sense now. Okay, so where have we got to now? We need to project the energy that has been painstakingly accumulated and organized by the disciple's creative imagination. This energy has been brought to a point of exquisite tension by focusing mental impulses, which is an aspect of willpower. What needs to happen next is that the disciple needs to call upon all the resources of their causal envelope, their soul. What resources are we talking about? Remember, we have already talked about the morphology of the causal lotus. It has 3 whorls of petals, and inside them is what is known as the jewel in the lotus. It is here that the monad, on the 43-1 plane of matter, anchors itself. Those 3 whorls of petals, 9 in total, are known as knowledge, love, and sacrifice petals. They are, as we know, actually the bodies of solar devas. What we need to be aware of is that we are expressions of the causal body and are effects of monadic radiation. This is why Hylozoics focuses on the monad and not the soul. The soul is where most other teachings focus. Stuff the soul. Focus on the monad. The rainbow bridge is projected upwards, providing safe passage for the pilgrim's weary feet. The disciple must wake up to the call of the jewel in the lotus, which resides in the now open lotus itself. How does the disciple do this? It must respond to the controlling influences of the sacrifice petals in the causal lotus. These petals represent the will aspect. The disciple must transmute knowledge into wisdom and love into unity with all. To this must be added the power to renounce. These are the 3 qualities of the soul as represented by the lotus. When all 3 aspects, knowledge, love, and will, are functioning with some potency at the very center of the soul life, the heart of the lotus begins to stir. It is worth pointing out here the analogy between the causal lotus and the 3 planetary centers. Shambhala equals the jewel in the lotus. Hierarchy equals the 3 groups of petals. Humanity equals the 3 permanent atoms within the aura of the lotus, 47.1, 48.1, and 49.1. It is worth clearing up a misconception about the term sacrifice and what it means from an esoteric perspective. It is not about giving up something, nor is it renunciation of all that makes life worth living. This is where the mystic gets it all wrong, as they retreat into their cave and live off bat droppings. Sacrifice from an esoteric perspective is about achieving a state of bliss and ecstasy. I can cope with that. It is the realization of another divine aspect of yourself, which hitherto has been hidden by the soul and the persona. It is an understanding and a recognition of the will to good, another esoteric term, which makes the whole process of creation possible and inevitable. This is the true cause of manifestation. So, how do we get to this point? The disciple has gained the fruits of experience, which we call knowledge, and has transmuted them into wisdom, hopefully. The disciple also has focused on living life honestly and in reality, not some subjective construct. Finally, the will to good becomes the crowning goal of life. With all this under their belt, disciples are now ready to evoke their will. Remember, evocation is a projection of energy. It starts with a link being made between the lower and the higher mind, then between spirit and matter. This leads to the linkage between the monad and the persona becoming a reality. This duality has trumped the triplicity that had existed up until now, which was spirit, soul, and persona. This allows the potency in the jewel in the lotus at the I-4 to destroy the 3 surrounding expressions of the world. These petals disappear. In reality, the devas are released from their onerous task. This is what is known as the second death, the death of form altogether. So, to summarize, where have we got to so far? Building the Antahkarana is a living process. It grows out of daily experiences and is dependent on the expression of the divine aspects of life on the physical plane, as far as it is possible. The next step is to try and align the persona. This is done by using one's intellect as a service to humanity. Love and unity are now becoming the controlling factor in life. When the term divine sacrifice is properly understood and implemented, it becomes a natural process of an individual's intention. It is now that it becomes possible to project the bridge. Vibrations are set up in the lower levels of divine manifestation. They become strong enough to produce a response from the higher levels. Finally, when the word of power is used correctly, the rainbow bridge is rapidly built. This has gotten us a long way, but there are still 3 more steps. See you in the next presentation. Thank you.